Hello team, welcome to another ATPGEO Politics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. This is a Ukraine War update extra video, giving you extra tidbits and nuggets to get your teeth into to give you an understanding of the war in Ukraine. And I'm laughing because I've just tried recording this video 5 times in a row now and cocked it up every time. But anyway, we're going to talk about the Su-35 multi-role jet, the Russian jet that was shot down just inside Kursk, known as a flanker or a super flanker to those using NATO nomenclature. This is a jet that was supposedly shot down by an F-16 with the help of the Swedish radar plane, the ASC 890 or the Saab 340, depending on what you want to call it. That has been one of the two that's been given to Ukraine and is supposedly in action at the moment. Now, the BILD German tabloid newspaper has an article, a short article written by Julian Röttger. Always take what he says as 100%, and there could be speculation here, but this is doing the rounds at the moment, making claims about the Su-35 being shot down by the F-16. So it seems to be becoming accepted that the jet was shot down by an F-16, which makes it an incredible event because you've got one of these Dutch F-16s given to the Ukrainians shooting down a more recent Sukhoi Su-35 fighter. Let's look at some of the footage here. This is, I still don't know how this footage was taken because this was thrown out onto the Ukrainian socials, really, and you're thinking it's a Ukrainian drone, but then if it's not too far into the Kursk Oblast, maybe 16 kilometers is a claim that we are just about to see, you could easily have a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone finding that and picturing it. Now, apparently the pilot survived here. AV Vector says, based on our own and open sources, a Russian Su-35 fighter jet based in Borisovlebsk airfield was shot down today, so this is obviously a few days ago now, by a Ukrainian F-16. The aircraft crashed near the village of Yorosovo in Kursk Oblast. Unfortunately, the pilot ejected and survived. And then there was later footage that came from the Russians here showing the aircraft just after. Obviously, there's a helicopter flying past here, probably going to pick the pilot up after they ejected. There's another helicopter in the background there, so I presume this is a search and rescue mission where they pick up the pilot and get him out, so get him back. But there is a Su-35 as it crashed. Tendar at the time was saying Russians confirmed that the Su-35S was destroyed in the Kursk sector. According to the Ukrainian sources, the Russian plane was downed by an F-16. It's like that Ukrainian F-16 fighters are already aided by the ASC 890 surveillance craft. Sweden announced the transfer of 2 of these planes back in 2024. Its radar can track targets up to 400 kilometers away, and that is what we're going to talk about. So it's just to give you an understanding of how this worked and why the F-16 was able to do what it did, given that it should probably still be outclassed by the Su-35. So how did that happen? Now, to remind you, these ASC 890s were delayed in getting to Ukraine, and it could well have been because of the Link 16 network whereby all of these entities are joined together, whether it be surface-to-air missile systems, fire units and ships and radar units and planes and everything joined together so they can all talk to each other. And actually what that means is you can piggyback on the back of other entities to give you data on what, for example, you're flying near as an F-16. And that's really, really important. So just to give you a bit of an understanding of this plane, there was a delay in its delivery. And it says here, the Saab 340 is not directly linked to Sweden. The delay, its approval from the United States is required. Quote, without the Americans, none of this aircraft transfer will happen because it contains a significant amount of American-made equipment. The aircraft is Swedish, but it has a lot of American equipment, so without the consent of the Americans, and I haven't heard that they've agreed to transfer the Saab 340 to us, this isn't going anywhere. Okay, that's what an expert said. it could well have been to do with the Link 16. And we heard on May the 31st, so that's now 10 days ago, that the US finally granted the access codes for the Link 16. Now they no longer need to find a way to integrate the Swedish-pledged ASC 890 AEW aircraft. Okay, so just 10 days ago, it appears that Link 16 was given a go-ahead and it was being held back, or there was delays probably coming from the American side, and then that allowed this ASC 890 Saab 340 to be utilized. And the key here is the shutdown of the shootdown of the Su-35S is even more interesting, given that Ukraine used its recently delivered Swedish ASC 890 Saab 340 AEW early warning plane, early warning control aircraft, which means the F-16 radar was off and was able to shoot the AIM-120 AMRAAM missile without retaliation. So the key to what happened here is that the Su-35 was no doubt in Kursk airspace doing whatever it was doing. You had an F-16, these are potentially loaded with guided glide bombs that was doing some kind of maybe a bombing raid on Tetkino or something like that. This is my speculation. And then the early warning aircraft here, which is much further back out of the range of the Su-35. So this is hundreds of kilometers back. There's no missile that Su-35 is carrying that can shoot this down. So it can safely do its thing. It's linked to the F-16. So it has a much greater radar range that is going into Russia, over Russian airspace. It's detecting what's flying around here. Now, the Su-35 may well know that it's being detected by this radar plane, but it's like, I can't shoot it back, so I'm just going to do what I do. Then the F-16 doesn't then have to turn its radar on to give itself a radar signature. You use HARM missiles to shoot at targets that are emitting radar. And that's how they can take out these radar installations, surface-to-air missile systems and whatnot. Well, the more that you use your radar, the more you are flashing to everyone that you're there. So the F-16 is piggybacking arguably on, and I might be getting this wrong, I'm not an expert, but it's piggybacking on the Swedish plane here, the Saab, to get its radar information about what's flying just inside Kursk, and could then use a missile that doesn't have the range of the Russian surface-to-air missile. It's just that the Russian plane doesn't know that the Ukrainian plane is there, but the Ukrainian plane, due to the Saab, knows that the Russian plane is there, shoots its AIM-120 and takes down the Russian plane. So this then is reported in the BILD. Historical, Putin's megajet loses its first air battle. This is Julian Rutger. This is a Google Translate, so, forgive it. Historic air battle victory for Ukraine. For the first time in history, a Western F-16 fighter jet has shot down a Russian Su-35 superflanker jet. The circumstances of the shootdown are spectacular. On Saturday, an unprecedented air battle took place over the northeast of Ukraine. As part of its defensive fight in the Sumy region, the Ukrainian Air Force is using fighter jets to bomb Russian positions inside the country and in neighbouring Kursk. Putin's Air Force then sent a high-tech Sukhoi Su-35 air superiority jet into battle to shoot down the Ukrainian fighter jets. What the Russian pilot did not know was that he flew into an ambush. So I don't know, there's all sorts of speculation going on here, whether they know this is true, but the idea here is that the Ukrainians were luring the Su-35 to them, and they were able to shoot it down. Parallel to its F-16 fighter jets, which are equipped with GPS-guided air-to-ground glide bombs, but also with radar-guided air-to-air guided missiles, Ukraine sent a Swedish Saab 340 AEW reconnaissance aircraft into battle, according to observer reports. The AWACS aircraft was already targeting the Russian superjet during its approach, possibly already 200 to 300 kilometers before the border. When it came close enough, the Swedish Saab gave the US F-16, actually Dutch F-16, but I guess US manufactured, but then actually, is that strictly true? I think they can make certain parts under license. Anyway, whatever. US F-16, the necessary data to fire one of its AIM-120 missiles, about 50-kilometer range. Actually, the AIM-120, let's look at this. The AIM-120 AB has a 75-kilometer range, it says here. The 120C has a 90-kilometer range, and the D has a 130 to 160-kilometer range. So at least 75 kilometers, I am assuming. So challenge that claim, at the Russian fighter jet, although that's putting Wikipedia against Julian Röpke. I'd put Wikipedia above Röpke, I would have thought. The latter crashed about 16 kilometers inside Russia near the city of Korenovo in the Kursk Oblast. According to Russian information, the pilot was able to save himself by means of an ejection seat. The 2 Ukrainian fighter jets involved flew away victorious. Now, at Twitter, at X, a Canadian professional pilot and aviation expert, Mark Brooks, praised the coordinated use of Western weapons systems. Quote, "Not just an F-16, the real game changer is the Swedish AWACS system, which detects Russian aircraft in real time, hundreds of kilometers away, and directs the missiles fired by the F-16. The Su-35 didn't even know it was being attacked." And then another sort of quote here, the aviation channel Airpower assessed also on Twitter, on X, the importance of the clash of Western and Russian technology for the history of air combat. Quote, "If confirmed, it would be the first air combat shoot down by a Ukrainian Viper, an F-16. Even more significantly, it was a top-of-the-line Russian flanker shot down by a decommissioned Dutch F-16 AM version, a model that many had already considered obsolete." So the key here is, of course, it's being used in unison with other systems through the Link 16 provision. So there you go. Reported, first time in history, an F-16 shot down a Su-35 flanker. It was ambushed yesterday in the Sumy region, according to BILD. A Swedish Saab 340 detected it 200 to 300 kilometers from the border and relayed the data to an F-16. The F-16 launched its AIM-120 missile, downing the Su-35 just 16 kilometers from the border in Kursk. Pilot ejected, and the Ukrainian aircraft returned without losses. There you go. So that's what we understand so far. I'm sure there's more detail to be added at future times, but that's to give you a little bit of an explainer as to what's happened. But it would be too long for me to include this in my hits and losses video, because there you go, that's 11 minutes, 12 minutes just on this. So I'm separating it out for your information and delectation. Take care. Speak to you soon. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't. It's really important. No, it's not that important. It's not going to change the world at all, but it'd be nice if you did subscribe to the channel. And please comment and share and do all the YouTubey things. Take care. Speak to you soon.